and a big welcome to In Conversation with Hemali. A huge hello from Singapore and one from New York City as well. Jenny Durso is a life coach and a creative director at an ad agency. She was totally unhappy in most areas of her life and always waited for that next thing that would make her happy. And each time she would say to herself, I'll be happy when. Don't we all do that? We keep postponing happiness, thinking, when I get this, I'm going to be happy. And that never happens. And from there, Jenny decided that, she is going to grow out of finding about her, happiness and rather teach women how to love life. Well, I welcome Jenny
Yes,
Durso. Thank you so
thank
very
you.
much to have agreed to speak to me and to share your journey with us on becoming a life coach.
Thank you so much, Hemali. Thank you for having me here. It's so wonderful to be here chatting with you.
Thanks, Jenny. Jenny, could I'm going to straight go into my question answer session with you.
Sure.
So, so were there any past experiences that influenced you to become a life coach?
Oh, sure. Like as you said in the intro, I was spending so much time just
Hmm.
unhappy. I mean, and honestly, I didn't really have a great reason for it, if you will. Everything on paper with my life was awesome. Like I had a great job in New York City, I had a husband, great friends, great family, but there was always something that I wasn't happy about and I couldn't put my finger on it. Yes, there was stress, there was overwhelm and drama, but I just thought that's what life was, right? I just
Hmm.
thought, well, this is adulting, right? This is how you are grown up in the world. You have a job, there's stress, there's just overwhelm and you can never get ahead of it. It just felt like that was what life is.
Hmm.
But suddenly, suddenly there was so much loss in our family, and there were all these life things, like these big life moments that were happening. And I consider myself a positive person, but at the same time, all of a sudden, I couldn't deal with anything. I felt like I was losing my grip on how to deal with my life, and I felt like everything was happening
Right.
to me, to us, and I felt like there was no control that I
Hmm.
had over my life. So, you know, I I was always wishing my life were different. So as you said before, I was like, well, if only this thing would happen, then I'd be happy. Or, someday this thing will happen and then I'll be happy. So I was always wishing my life away for that happiness that was to come from somewhere else.
Right.
And with all these things going on in our life, it was affecting me. Like having those kinds of thoughts were making me negative and stressed, and it was affecting my home life and my patience level with my young child, and it was really getting me down. And I felt like I didn't know how to handle all this overwhelm. So I went to life coach school to just learn how to deal with life a little differently. I mean, I felt like I was positive. I felt like I, could work my way around it, but it wasn't working, and so I needed to learn some new things. So I went to life coach school and it taught me these tools immediately that
Yeah.
started changing my life, like literally within weeks without anything in my life having to change. And I thought that was so incredible. But when I was speaking with women all the time, my women friends, mom friends, whatever, everyone was kind of saying the same thing. Like, if only
Okay.
this thing were to happen, then I'd be happy. Or, I'll be happy when blah, 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 And
Yeah.
so I decided that this was an area where I could help. I can help women turn this around. So I started calling those phrases or those thoughts unicorn thoughts. And I mean by that, it's like they are the things that are out here in the world, the thing that you don't quite have, but you think is going to be the magic that's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're chasing these little unicorns and like, oh, if that little thing over there, that's
Yes.
going to be the thing that makes us happy, right?
Yeah.
We all do it, whether it's a new job or a relationship. So
Yeah.
I realized that
Yeah.
those thoughts are the thoughts that are directly in between us and happiness,
Hmm.
and that we're chasing those things like they're going to make it all okay, but that's not how it works, right? Like that's
Right.
not how life works. You have
True.
to learn how to be happy right now.
Yeah.
So what we all, it's like deferring your happiness for later, but we all just want to be happy
Yeah.
today. And
Absolutely.
so that's the work I do with my clients. And that's why I love being a life coach, because I can help women be happy in their life today, no matter what their life looks like. So
Sure.
that's kind of a long answer, but
No, that's lovely to know. And yes, you're right. We keep thinking of the happiness that we're going to achieve later and forget about the moment that we have right now.
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And
So,
we think it comes from things in our life, right? But it really comes from the inside, which is the huge switch
right,
up there. Yeah.
right. So, before I go ahead with my next question, I would like to tell my viewers. I read about Jenny, an article, and when I read that article, she had spoken about saying no, and that was something that kind of attracted me to find out more about her. And
Mhm.
I ended up reading a little more about her, and then I went onto her website. And that is when I decided that I must speak to her because I thought she was quite inspiring. And I connected with Jenny, and she was very kind to agree to come here and talk to all of us. Thank you, Jenny, for doing this. My next question is that I understand that you believe in the power of saying no. Did that belief help you, to take decisions for a lifetime?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't something I was used to saying. I mean, I grew up in a big family and I was the 11th of 12, so you kind of get
Oh,
lost in the shuffle a little bit. But when I was 23, I was engaged to my boyfriend, and he was a great guy, and we would have had an amazing life together. However, I knew that even though I had said yes to the engagement, that I
mhm.
had to break it off because
Oh,
I couldn't go from my father's house to my husband's house. For me, I needed to know who I was first. And when you're growing up in the midst of all those kids, like it was hard for me to know who I was. So I had to make that hard decision to say no at
uh,
that point. That was really the first time
mhm.
I said no to something because it meant saying yes to myself. And so that was really the first time that I was saying yes to myself. And, in turn, later on, you can see that it was also saying, giving him the opportunity to say yes to his own life, right? But
Beautiful.
that no was really a yes to me for the first time. And I had to trust that road, the unknown path, was the one I needed to take. And that's often so hard when we're confronted with no's in our life, right? Like that's
Yeah,
like this
yeah,
unknown and you're not sure what's going to be. But,
yeah.
as it turns out, like that turned into the yes for me years later and for my marriage right now. But, you know, it was hard at the time, but you have to trust yourself to
Yeah.
know what is right for you, even when it is hard. And of course, since then, there's been like 1,000 no's, like
Yeah.
I've been laid off from a job, and I've been, many breakups in between then and now. And, I actually went through, my husband and I went through three pregnancy misses, which was a challenge. It was like my
Oh, I'm
body
sorry to
saying
hear that.
no.
Mhm.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
and so some things are bigger than others, if you will. But one thing they all have in common is
Mhm.
this need to stay open and like accept the path that you're on, whether it's you saying no or in some
Yeah.
way a no being said to you, right? There's like
Right.
this acceptance of where you are in life. And one of the questions that is
Mhm.
so hard to answer in those
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
is, how is this happening for me?
Right.
And so sometimes we can't see that in the moment, but how is this happening for me is a question that is uncomfortable at the time.
Hmm.
But sometimes if you keep that and you don't want to answer it right away, you sometimes can't.
Yeah.
But usually there is a way that what is happening to you is happening for you. And so the other question is, how is this no
Yeah.
a yes in disguise? How is
True.
it a yes in disguise? Which is like a similar question, but where is it leading to, right? And
Yeah.
so if we can keep our minds open, that's just all those no's that happen in my life.
Yeah.
And anyone's life, if we can just stay open and trust
Yeah.
the path we're on, the way
Yeah.
forward will be revealed. It's
Sure.
hard. It's not easy.
I'm sure, of course, it
But
must have been
mm,
hard. And I want to ask you that was there any kind of a guilt feeling when you decided to say a yes to yourself?
oh gosh, yes, absolutely. There was a lot of guilt because I mean I know this is like a little sound bite, right? It's like glossing over all the ugly details, but that there was so much guilt involved in it. But I had to reframe that to say that that guilt was
Hmm.
a gift to myself and a
Oh,
gift to
lovely.
him. Like that, yes, like that guilt was a gift and to for both of us, as we said, like he needed to go, you know,
Hmm.
be with
Yeah.
someone that he could be with at the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it took
Yeah.
me a while to realize that, these things don't happen in the moment. It
Of
was a
course.
very challenging time.
Yeah.
Um, but when I think about any other no that came along, and there were some since then, especially with relationships, right?
Yeah.
There's that level of guilt. But if you
Right.
can see it and reframe it as a way that it's for you,
Yeah.
then it helps for sure.
Wonderful. So, viewers, just note what she said. Saying no was a gift that she gave to herself. And I would rather say she gave the gift to both of them because both had an option of living their lives better.
Hmm.
That was a
Hmm.
lovely answer, Jenny. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Jenny, in a fast-paced environment, we are all the time working. In fact, we're working
Hmm.
even when we're not working. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So how do we slow down and kind of to evaluate where we are in relationship to the stress or the burnout that we are going through? Are we
Hmm.
creating?
Oh yeah, and I love that you just said we're creating, right? Because it's true, we do create so much of that stress and burnout in our life. And I can tell you, self-care is so important.
Yeah.
But also, and we usually are pretty good at taking care. Sometimes we're good at taking care of our bodies. Like we think of self-care as taking care of our bodies,
Yeah.
but we really also need to take care of our minds. And meditation is a great way. And there's also another fantastic tool that I call the brain dump or a thought download. And that means paying
Brain
attention
dump.
to what's going I know it's not a fancy name, but it just means getting everything out of your brain onto
Hmm.
paper. You can do this
Oh,
in the
okay.
morning or at night or both times because the mind body connection is so strong. And
Okay.
so we don't recognize sometimes that our brains are creating these thoughts and our thoughts are actually creating our life. Okay. I'll
Hmm.
get to that in a second. But
Yeah.
if you can get your thoughts out and write them down on paper,
Hmm.
not pretty, not like a story, just kind of write and jot things down, just whatever's going on in your mind, and then really just look at it. Just
Hmm.
look at the paper as if it was almost someone else who wrote it. So you can look at it objectively and see that and get curious. Like, don't judge the thoughts that are down there on paper. Just notice what your brain is coming up with automatically, right? It's so
Right.
important. And when I coach people, we that's our first step, and then we work through what to do with all those thoughts and what we're making them mean, and that's where all the work is. But the
Yeah.
first step is awareness. So we have to get it out and get it on paper. And so we look at it and we just get curious about what our brain is doing.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you it's chock full of unicorn thoughts. Trust me on that. There's probably 1,000 unicorn thoughts in there. But there's a great quote by Deepak Chopra, and he says, every cell in your body
Yeah.
is eavesdropping on your thoughts.
Wow.
And that's so important because we can see when things are not in alignment with our mind and our body and how it shows up.
Yeah.
And one other thing I want to mention is that, contrary to popular belief, like our circumstances of our life do not create our life, our thoughts do. And this is so important because this is why we focus on what's going on in our brains because our thoughts create our feelings. We think it's
Right.
like the things that happen outside that create
Hmm.
our feelings, but it's our thoughts that create our feelings. And then our feelings determine what actions we take or don't take. And
Right.
those actions are our life. That's what our shows up in our life. So it all starts with your thoughts. But people think
Wow.
that their circumstances are their life. And
Yeah.
that's really why we need to slow down and take a look at what's going on in our brains. It's so important
Wow.
to do that. Yeah.
Lovely. So, what I've understood from what you said is that, every morning sit down and kind of write down about 4 to 5 things,
Mhm,
that the thoughts that come to your mind, and accept
mhm,
them, whether they're good, bad, or whatever. Just accept them and put them down, and
mhm.
that will help you to plan out the rest of your day, whether you want to make it a happy one or do you want to turn it around
Right.
the other way, right?
Exactly. That's a great point because you can choose your thought. You can choose the thoughts that you want to have. And believe it or not, we think that the stress and burnout is created by like our job or our life, our situation, but it's
Yes,
all created by our thoughts and how we think about things. So, and what we make them mean. So, yeah, you can
yeah,
choose your
yeah.
thought to change your
Jenny,
results in life.
yeah, Jenny, I also feel that we have this habit of passing the blame on to somebody else, to something else.
Mm,
I'm not
hmm
happy because I didn't,
Yes.
my husband didn't wake me up on time or whatever it is. We got to pass it on somewhere, isn't it?
Yes.
Wow. So
A
it's about
hundred percent.
yeah, controlling
A
our
hundred
thoughts
percent.
and accepting, things as they come. Wow, lovely.
Because we can't control other people, right? And that's the
Yeah.
hardest thing. We spend a lot of our time trying to control other people, but really the only person we can control is ourselves. And our thoughts are totally in our control. And that's what makes our
Yes.
life. So, yeah,
Yes,
powerful.
viewers, please keep that in
Mhm.
mind. We can only change ourselves and none else.
Right.
So let's just concentrate on ourselves. All right, Jenny. How do we manage frustrations? Could you touch on
That's a
that a little bit? Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Because, again, like that dovetails perfectly with what we just talked about, right? We all
Yeah.
think that our frustrations come from the things outside of us,
Yes.
but frustration is a feeling. And now we know that our feelings come from our thoughts.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, our frustration is really up to what we're thinking about our situation, not our situation itself. Okay.
Right.
So, yeah, and once we know that, we can manage our minds. So, really, the key to frustration is managing our minds. Now, I do want to say this like, it doesn't mean you should never be frustrated. Like, I don't mean just always think happy thoughts and everything's fine. I definitely do not mean that. I mean that sometimes we can say, just, decidedly, like, I want to be frustrated about this.
Right.
I am frustrated about this. And when we recognize that that's our choice and our
Yeah.
doing, it's so different because that means the power is with us. If I want to be frustrated, I totally can be. But I have to know that that's me making that with my thoughts, right? It's not
Wow.
the thing that's happening out here.
All right. So Jenny, when I hear it, it sounds very simple. Um,
Right.
But it isn't definitely right. How does one train the mind? You did mention about meditation is some, and you mentioned about writing down, your thoughts.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but even meditation, Jenny, isn't easy.
No, 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 I know. And so the work that I do with clients is not meditation, but it's working through this construct and this understanding that it is our thoughts that create our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our results in life. And so that's the construct we focus on in the coaching because getting aware of what we're
Mhm.
thinking is really the key. Because when we can separate the reaction we have to the things outside of us from like just the facts of the
Right.
things that are happening outside of us, that's how we start to manage our minds. And that's how we take our power back. Like when we feel powerless in our life, it's because we're giving credit to everything outside of us for our feelings and
Yes.
forgetting that we're actually in charge of that. And so that is the key to, basically everything because all
Yeah.
the issues that we have in our life can fit into one of those things. It's a thought, it's a
Absolutely.
feeling, it's an action or a result. And that's how we
Wow.
manage our life. That's the construct that we work with in coaching. And it's a really powerful tool
It
that
is.
changed my life, what I learned in coaching school. And it's the thing
Okay.
that I spend a lot of time on with my clients because it's the one thing that they're never going to unlearn. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Once we master that for their life
Yes.
and we work
Yes.
one on one with their life, they can't unlearn that. That's a tool they're going to use forever. And
Forever.
it changes
Yes.
everything. And the one last thing I'll say about it is that, it takes one person to change like the whole dynamic. So nothing else. In other words, like my husband doesn't need to do this. You know, he can, it'd be great, but our relationship is better just from me knowing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah,
once you can take ownership of your own feelings and your
yeah.
actions and your thoughts, your whole life changes without anything in your life having to change. Do
Oh,
you know what I mean?
that's invaluable what you've
It's
said. Really, really,
powerful.
this is so
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Moving on.
Yes, I
What
know we could
is
talk about it for days.
yes, Jenny? What is success to you, and how do you inspire others, to live a fulfilled life?
Yeah, success to me right now, I would define it as being really content in my life, being happy with how I show up as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, a sister, and just being really content with my life and how I'm showing up in it. Now, I have to say that wasn't always the case. That wasn't
Yeah,
always my
of
answer.
course.
I think,
Yeah,
a few years ago, it might have been like, the
yeah,
next promotion or whatever.
yeah.
But that really to me is success and helping people. I grew up in a service-oriented family, and helping people is one of the tenets of which I was brought up. So helping people is
Mhm.
very important to me. Yeah, and
Right.
helping them believe. Oh, I was going to say that inspiring, to answer the second part of your
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
inspiring people to me is helping them see what's possible. And I can be an example of what's possible, but also helping them see what's possible for themselves, and
Right.
helping them see that their life can change, that they have the power to change it. They are in the driver's seat, and show them how to live their life that way. So
Lovely.
helping them believe new things about their life is like
Yeah.
a light bulb moment for them sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
slaying unicorns, because that's what we do here. We have to
Yeah.
kill those
True.
thoughts and like move on with their, get rid of those unicorn thoughts that are holding them back that they don't even realize. And then they can move forward confidently to create the
Sure.
life that they want. Yeah.
Yeah, but we all come with a baggage along with us. When somebody approaches you, they have a baggage that they're tagging along with them,
Yes.
and it must be really difficult to kind of get rid of that and start thinking afresh. I'm sure it must be difficult to convince. Yeah.
So I'm so glad you just said that, because there are a couple of things with that. One is like the things from the past. You're right, we carry them with us, and all those things are attached to a story we've told ourselves about it. Like these, like I'm not good enough, or that thing happened and they're not happy about it. Whatever it is, they're bringing all these things. And one of the big things we do with our clients also is to look at what they are bringing along. Let's look at it now, today, and then decide. You get to decide, do you want to keep that baggage, right? What luggage is going to go away?
Yeah.
Let's look at the luggage. How is it serving you? Is it serving you? Is it true anymore? Because sometimes the things that happened in our past are no
Yeah.
longer even
Yeah.
true. We've just kind of told ourselves a story about it, and
Yeah.
it's been holding us back all that time, right?
Yeah.
So once we can release some of that baggage and recognize that we can create a new future to starting today, because your
Right.
future doesn't have to look like your past did,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Lovely.
So,
Before we kind of come end the session, I would like you to
yeah.
convey a message to the viewers.
Yes, yes. So one thing I would love to tell your viewers is to have compassion for yourself. I think this is something that I didn't learn until just a couple of years ago. Like, have compassion with yourself for yourself is so important. There's no beating ourselves up for the things that we did or didn't do in our past. And that was a great segue from that question you just asked. We have today, we have right now, right?
Yeah.
And if there is something that you want to change, you can do it. It's always in your power to do it. So even the tiniest little shift is going to
Yeah.
put your life in a different course. So it doesn't have
Lovely.
to be radical change unless you want to do radical change. But the point is, there is change that can be made. And for your viewers not to feel stuck in their past, it doesn't define them. They get to define them starting today. And
Right.
your life and your happiness are totally in your control. And
Right.
that is the best news ever.
Absolutely wonderful message, Jenny. And Jenny, if somebody wants to connect with you for guidance,
Sure.
can they approach you?
Absolutely. My website is JanineDurso.com, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook under @JanineDurso Coaching. So I think we'll put the links at the
I'll put
bottom or
that under
something,
the
but yeah,
link.
no
I'll put the
problem.
link under the description,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, and I
Great.
wanted to just add one last thing,
Sure,
and that's
please
if
go ahead.
they come to my website, they can sign up for a free 30-minute coaching session.
Oh,
Now, some people are
lovely.
like, why would you do a 30-minute free coaching session? And I want to do that because I want people to see how their life is possible. Let's take something that's going on in their life and let's work through it in 30 minutes. There's no obligation to do further coaching. There's no hard sell on that call. I just want to help people. So 30-minute coaching session, if you want to see what coaching is about, and I can help you with an issue that's going on in your life right now, come to my website and sign up for one. No problem.
Thank you so very much. That's really wonderful. And Jenny, thank you very much for spending this valuable time with us. And
Thank you.
a life coach is like a personal trainer of our mind who helps us to reach clarity, take action, and get different results. You are an amazing influencer, Jenny, and you've been very kind to offer free consultation of 30 minutes for the viewers. For my viewers, you can reach her through the link that I'll be sharing in the description. And if you have any queries that you may want to write to me, I can pass them on to Jenny as well to guide you further. Do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you, Jenny, very much, and
Thank you.
wishing you the best always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.